Greetings, travelers. Welcome back to the Hearthstone World Championship Day 2. I'm your host, Seltzer, and along with Frodan and our broadcast team, we'll be bringing you 3 more days of Hearthstone action before we meet back up with you at BlizzCon November 6th and 7th.
Yep, that's right, Rachel. Yesterday we had first half of competition compete, and we had 4 players come out victorious. The European champion Tice, the BlizzCon 2014 alumnus Kranich, the pro-choice Osaka to go far, and of course the shaman god himself, Ping Ping Ho, emerging as the winners.
And we have the other competitors who are going to be playing today for the glory and a piece of the 100K to go along with their title. The remaining 8 players will finish out the groups today, followed by the losers matches, where we'll see our first players eliminated, Dan. Today's matches are going to begin with Kno vs. Jab, then we're going to follow it up with Nyria vs. Daiming, Hotform vs. Nilio, and finish it off with Nias vs. Zoro. After those players compete, we're going to see our losers matches, and Dan, that's where we're going to see those players go home.
Yeah, no one wants to be eliminated yet, but these 4, No Tomorrow, Life Coach, Love CX, and Purple, they're all in danger of having the dream end here. And after a year's worth of work, all of 2015 has factored into this tournament alone. No one wants to be sent home early.
That's right. It's all on the line here with a best-of-5 conquest format. So for those of you just joining us, here's a refresher on how it works.
Conquest is a match format created for competitive Hearthstone tournament play and is the official match format for the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship. Here's how it works. Each player begins with 3 decks using a unique class for each deck. For example, a player can have a warrior deck, a priest deck, and a warlock deck, but not 2 different warlock decks. When a match begins, each player selects their first deck without telling the other player which one they've chosen to play with.
Garrosh versus Uther.
After the first game ends, the winning player's deck is declared victorious and can no longer be used, and they must choose from their remaining decks for Game 2. The losing player may choose to use the same deck they just lost with, or one of their remaining decks. This continues through Games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. Once a player has conquered their opponent with all 3 of their decks, the match is over and the winning player advances. Conquest will be used at the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship, which has a prize pool of $250,000. Now that you know the format, try taking part in an online tournament or a fireside gathering near you.
So, Dan, we had a bunch of games yesterday, and we had some serious results. What did you think?
You know, I'm really surprised by the performance of the Asia-Pacific region. They're undefeated so far in this tournament. So I'm looking forward to see if they can continue that because they certainly are the dark horses. A couple of fan favorites also lost yesterday, and I'm looking forward for them to strike back. So I'm looking forward to the games and seeing what's going to happen because, again, 4 players are going home.
Well, with that said, our stage is set, and we're ready for our first match. So I'm going to hand it over to the desk with Savitz, Kibler, and Kripp. Gentlemen, it's all yours.
Thanks, Rachel. Yesterday was an extremely exciting day, and we can't wait to see what happens today. Of course, joining me here at the desk, the great Brian Kibler, and joining us from Finland once again, the equally great Savitz. How are you 2 doing today?
Doing awesome. Yesterday's matches were really entertaining. I was really happy about to see the class diversity that we saw. We have so many different classes. We saw the different strategies coming out from those 8 players, and today we're going to see the remaining 8.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the different lineups and the overall strategies the different players brought. We saw both Osaka and Tice bring a very anti-aggressive lineups that they were planning on facing the Asian players, who they understood to have a much more aggressive metagame. And it was really cool to see Ping Ping Ho win with his Shaman deck at the end of the day. I actually was in the other room, watching the match, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it was quite the closing match that we had. The interesting thing about today is we will see the other half of the field play right away. Those are going to be our 4 opening games. But, we talked about the class distribution at the very start on how there were, a lot of druids. We saw a lot of druids. But there were also a lot of paladins. But somehow it just so happened that the paladins didn't really play on the first day. In fact, I think there was only one paladin. It was like a mid-range paladin or something. So today is actually the paladin day. We're gonna kick it off with that. We're gonna see if there's gonna be maybe some mysterious challengers or maybe some mid-range paladins to follow. We expected a lot of mysterious challengers, but we haven't seen it yet at all in the tournament. So today might just be a completely different day of Hearthstone.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna see players from all the groups playing today, and those split up across the 4 regions. We've already seen all the regions play so far, and as Frodan said, all the APAC players so far are undefeated.
Yeah, we'll see if that continues. But let's just take a look at the groups so we can see who we're about to see play here. So this is Group A. We're going to see Jab and No play in our opening game here.
And in the lower bracket, No tomorrow will play against loser of that. In the Group B, yesterday we saw Kronich beat Life Coach, and today we will see Nias go up against Zoro, and after that Life Coach will be in danger to get eliminated.
In Group C, Osaka defeated Love CX yesterday, and we will see Hot Form take on Nilio to see who advances, and then the loser of that will face Love CX on the brink of elimination.
Some elimination is due at the end of today indeed. For Group D, we saw Ping Ping Ho beat Purple in the epic Shaman victory. And today we will see also from Group D, Daimeng versus Neiria. And of course, as we mentioned, the losers of each of the opening games will face off against each other at the end of today. And we will have a quarter of the field gone.
Yeah, I mean, these players all want to be able to go play on the stage at BlizzCon,
Yeah.
but unfortunately for 4 of them today and 4 more tomorrow, they...
4 more, I think, at the end of the tournament.
Oh, all right. Well, then not tomorrow. The next day.
That's right.
They'll be able to go to BlizzCon. They'll be able to hang out and in the tavern with us and watch, but they won't be playing on the stage.
Yeah, they will still get 5,000, but that's not what they're aiming for. They're aiming for the title and the $100,000.
Yeah, everyone wants to win. All right, well, we're about to get the action started, and to kick things off, we have our first 2 players, Kno and Jab, giving their thoughts on their matchup.
My first round opponent is Kno. I don't really know anything about Kno other than he's friends with Koroniko, which is another Japanese player that used to be on my team, actually. I figured they'd probably, help each other, but I'm not entirely sure.
私の対戦相手はジャブです。で、ジャブの強みはハンターが強いことですかね。まあ、それ以外は私でも勝てると思っているので大丈夫だと思います。
I didn't study the Asian players too much. It's kind of hard to find, much about them, because I haven't played in a whole lot of tournaments.
ハンターに対してはまあ捨ててもいいとは思ってますが、まあある程度の運があれば普通に勝てると思うので、まあ気楽にやろうと思います。
After hearing the deck lineups, I feel like my preparation going in was correct, and he's bringing pretty much the standard lineup, which I assume most people will, so I think I should do really well against him. I feel pretty confident. I feel like overall the Asian players are going to be more scared to go against the NA and Europe players.
Jack, you will be beaten easy by me, but don't be depressed after the loss.
Jab versus No!
All right, well, you got to love that confidence in the interviews. That is the best thing coming out of those. Now, again, as we mentioned, there is not quite as much known about the Asia-Pacific players and, in some cases, the Chinese players. But, I was able to do a little bit of research. Jab is, kind of a veteran of Hearthstone. He's very well known for his mid-range Hunter deck. But, no, I took a look at some of his recent results, and he has had very good recent results. Again, the Asia-Pacific region is undefeated in the tournament so far. And one of our other players in the tournament, Nilio, he hasn't lost... all but 1 match in the last 2 months of play, and it is in fact 2-0. So No was able to take some games against some of the superstars of that region. So he really is, on that level.
Yeah, I've never seen him playing, but after that talk and everything, I'm so excited to see what he's going to bring. Is it going to be the secrets battling? Can he back up all that trash talk?
Yeah,
we'll
I liked the end there. Don't be too sad after you lose. Don't be too sad. I'm going to take you out easily, but I want you to go home smiling.
he wants Jab to not feel, his confidence shot, and he wants him to have a chance in his second game to not be eliminated at the end of today.
It was really neat to see the respect that he gave to Jab's Hunter's deck, which is exactly what we're going to see in this game.
Mm-hmm. So Jab is well known for his mid-range Hunter deck. The Web Spinner is fairly indicative of that, along with the Houndmaster. But on the other side of the board, we were talking about Secret Paladin being a thing, but we see the Quartermaster and the Tyrion right away, which doesn't necessarily suggest it's not Secret Paladin, but it almost does.
Yeah, Jab really well known for his Hunter. Once again, bringing that mid-range version. Early this year already, the mid-range Hunter was actually at some point called the Jab Hunter, just for the more late-game oriented playstyle than the usual lists.
Yeah, he's been known to innovate on Hunter decks, not necessarily content to just be like, okay, well, this is the list that I've been playing for a while, just keep playing it. He always looks for new ways to gain edges with that same basic shell in different matchups. We saw him play this exact same lineup, actually, at the Americas Championship, where his deck had Ram Wrangler in it. So hoping we may see some Wrangler in it in this match as well.
Yeah, but Jab starting hand looks quite good with the Web Spinner into the Mad Scientist, and playing mid-range Paladin, and he certainly needs some help from the top of his deck.
That is not a good hand. The definitely mid-range. We see the Murloc Knight there.
That's 2 for 2 mid-range.
Yeah,
How about that?
We have seen far more Murloc Knights than we have Mysterious Challengers. Maybe the Mysterious Challengers they're staying hidden. You know,
they're
kind
very
of
mysterious.
Exactly.
But I think we might see some of those pop up later on today. Maybe. I hope to see at least one.
All right, well, he opens up with the Haunted Creeper to try to at least punish a hero power. And, well, it's going to work. It seems that No has absolutely nothing to play besides a hero power.
Yeah, this is a really awkward hand from No here. He has the classic arena Paladin hand of all 4 drops.
For turn 4, he will certainly have a lot of options, but for turn 2 and 3, it's looking a bit grim. But something like a Master Bomb Battle from the top of his deck would help a lot.
This is really where the Paladin deck... and there's exactly what you said. This is where the Paladin deck can kind of struggle against Hunter, whereas the Hunter deck, if it's able to get ahead early in the game and push damage, ultimately later on in the game, even if the Paladin is able to establish a strong board presence, which is really the goal of the deck, the Hunter hero power is able to really close things out.
Absolutely.
And there's the King's Elec. There are a lot of random elements in Jab's deck. Jab actually admitted to really liking a lot of the cards with random effects. As it so happens, a lot of the cards with random effects have an overpowered expected result in a lot of cases. So it's understandable. You know, it's just it's one of those personality things that, you know, do you really want to leave your game up to chance? But, you know, if you're okay with that, I think your overall results end up favorably.
Even with that great draw from No of the Muster for Battle, Jab had the perfect answer with Unleash the Hounds, leaving him with a significant board while No is really reduced to trying to play defense here.
Wow, not going for the Consecration just yet. Will play the Piloted Shredder. That means he will take some additional damage here.
I'm a little surprised by the decision, both because it leaves Jab with a significant board, and also it leaves him open to a possible Houndmaster here, which could easily contest the Piloted Shredder, and then also allow him to remove whatever comes out of it with the Mad Scientist.
Yeah, even the bow is an extremely strong challenge here, as you have to consider that there's only one player who's really at risk of dying here, and it's the Paladin. So if you're the Hunter, you don't care about taking 4 damage. But if you're the Paladin, you really care about taking 4 damage.
Reasonably good Shredder for No here. Getting that 3 toughness minion.
And the difference between a 1-3 and a 2-3 here, because Jab has all 1 health minions, is really inconsequential.
Definitely. And Jab considering whether or not he should trade here or just go face, and he decides to go face.
Well, the interesting thing about this is because No had the restraint to not play the Consecration, it makes it such a powerful card this turn, and it's almost unexpected because it seemed like Consecrate was better than the Shredder last turn.
If I was Jab, I would be thinking, okay, so he does not have the Consecration, and that makes it better to go face, but I believe this might be the turn for the Consecration now. Anti-heal, but from the top, not too bad either. Quartermaster, well, you don't really want to play this right now with 0 dudes on the board.
Well, it is kind of that same effect where it has a lot of HP. Like, it doesn't need more than 2 attack.
Yep. Goes for the heal, but that's an easy way to deal with the potential freezing trap. And he knows Jab's playstyle. I'm sure No has done his research. So it's very, very likely to be a freezing trap and not anything else.
Here, Jab has a couple of options. He's
going for the beast draw here.
Ooh.
Wow.
Okay.
That's what I've always been getting off my effigies for 7 lately. It's not very exciting, man, but it's pretty good when you can control
horrible.
it.
If Jab draws the second Unleash the Hounds and has 10 mana, I mean, it's a pretty nice combo.
Yeah, Asadma is well known as one of the legendaries that isn't very valuable to play for 7 mana.
It's a 7-cost beast. It's only a 4/2. It's really bad stats, but it does have the ability that anytime another minion takes damage, that minion gets destroyed.
Oh, Jab winning the joust here, getting that low tap. That is very valuable.
The really interesting thing about Acid Maw is its interaction with Dr. Boom and Boombot.
That is really kind of gross. And that's one of the interesting things about cards like Web Spinner is that they will allow players to get into situations that really don't necessarily come up very often, and trying to craft a plan around, okay, I'm going to play Dr. Boom, I'll have my Boombots, then I can play Acid Maw and kill whatever you have. It's you know, an interesting thing that tests players' skills in a very different way.
Seems like a good turn from Murloc Knight.
Yeah.
You might even get a decent pop off the freeze trap, and even if you don't, Murloc Knight is such a threatening card, it might require the weapon hit and the 3/2.
Yeah, the 4th toughness is absolutely key here. Because the bow or the Elec, neither are strong enough to take it out, but
High main on 6. There we go.
High main is strong enough to take out just about anything.
That is the draw of a world champion right there.
Jump definitely has strong late game here. He has that Doctor 6, Doctor 6, and the Doctor 7 coming up next time.
And wait, how effective was Murloc Knight there?
Yeah, Murloc Knight was fantastic.
It popped a 3/2 on the board, it triggered the weapon, it made the trade so unfavorable that freezing trap was used on a Silverhand Recruit.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Murloc Knight plus the hero power generated 3 minions means that not only does No have the ability to pop the trap, he still has a board presence.
Yep.
Even after his opponent attacked so much into the Knight itself.
He's going to have a Dr. Boom board presence here.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, that's usually pretty good.
Yeah. Often better than pretty good, actually.
And now, No is the one with the first Dr. Boom on the board, so he's able to decide how he wants to direct his attacks.
Really, it's the Boombots that decide how the attacks are directed in the end.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm just waiting to see if that Acid Maw is actually going to do something. It can't be such a powerful card, but it's so extremely situational.
Here, No has some interesting options. He can basically attack, if he wants, he can attack Boom into the Hyena, attack all the rest of his stuff into the Boom and Consecration. There is a little bit of a danger there in case the Boombots end up going to the wrong place.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that both players are threatening so much damage to one another that this might be a situation of intense calculation to see if you can push your opponent and not die the next turn.
Oh, this is such a difficult spot to be at. Those Boombots can... there's so many different possible outcomes from the Boombots on both sides. It's very hard for No to calculate what
That
would
wasn't
be the
even
optimal
necessarily
play.
good, by the way, because we're still getting closer to that position of... Okay, well, looks like he's probably going to go for the Consecrate here, I'd imagine. Oh, the Juggler's dangerous. Oh, that could juggle into a Boombot here.
Let's see where it goes.
Oh, that's an amazing
Wow,
one.
that was big. That was really big.
That saves the Boombot. And the Juggler's down.
Juggler does give its life for the cause, but
For the juggle.
But suddenly No has
the Juggler
really
was the juggle.
He put an apple on his own head. Rebounds, a boomerang blade there.
Oh, we see the Hunter's Mark again, but that's more understandable because Jab is playing let's say a more traditional mid-range Hunter deck, as opposed to, I believe it was Ping Ping Ho, which seemed to just be playing Hybrid Hunter with Hunter's Mark.
Yeah. Oh no, and Leok just was not what Jab was hoping to get here.
Either of the other animal companions would have been relatively strong, and now No is the one who's actually in really strong spot. He's very, very close to lethal damage, I believe. He has 10 on the board, 4 in his hand.
The Boombot can do it.
Could do it.
It
Yeah,
is
it's Boombot
possible.
meant to face for 4.
I imagine he probably will end up true silvering down the Leok.
So 1 in 12 lethal if
Yeah,
he wants to go for it, but it's not worth going. You don't want to try that.
Well, let's see what happens here.
I'm sure that we're gonna hear some people saying that No missed lethal right now because the 1 in 12, it's still a lethal. He didn't get it. But this is still pushing very, very close to lethal and leaving Jab without very much damage on the board.
Jab needs his last unleash, and that is not it.
Yeah, the unleash would have been really good. It would have been even better if you could play it with Acid Maw to actually clear the board.
Yeah, most of the stuff is at 1 HP already, though. Let's see what comes out of Shredder. Steam Wheel Sniper.
That's interesting.
Not bad.
But most of the time that comes out of a Shredder, I joke about how your hero power can now target minions, but this actually works.
Well, I don't think it's good enough.
Probably not, no.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
The most damage you could take off was just 2 off the board.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is not good enough. So The Paladin takes it. The Asia-Pacific region is dominating so far.
And No was saying in his interview that he really did respect Jab's Hunter deck, but he felt confident in his decks and his ability. If he played well, got some good draws, take him out, and that's exactly what happened.
Now both players drew fairly well in the mid to late game, which is, I mean, both decks are mid-range decks, so that is when it's really important. But it seemed that just by going first, the Paladin had the advantage of putting up the big threats one turn before.
Well, I mean, No had a draw that did nothing on turn 1, hero powered in turn 2, Mustard in turn 3, and Jab just had Unleash, and then he still won decisively.
Yeah.
It was a pretty remarkable example of how powerful the Paladin's mid-game really is.
No was able to play his Dr. Boom first, and that was definitely a big swing. If Jab was the one able to play it first, might have been a different game.
It's interesting because Jab did have the coin, and he chose to use the coin to play a 2-drop on turn 1, which gives him this ability to have this early board presence. He did have the option to simply play Web Spinner on turn 1, and it's possible that if he'd saved his coin for Dr. Boom, the game might have gone a little differently.
Absolutely.
Absolutely indeed. So from our first winner so far, first game winner at least. There's still quite a few games left to be played. He had a few thoughts about, I believe it was his gamer tag. So let's hear what No has to say.
の由来は、元は、キャラクターの名前ですけど、今はノーレッジの頭文字を取ったということにしています。家族や友達は私がハーストーンを、真面目にやってることは知っていて、お金が手に入るのでいいんじゃないという感じですね。
Well, there we have it. A little bit more information. No is for knowledge.
And yeah, this is a battle between the Americas region and the APAC region. We were saying that that APAC was the undefeated region coming into today. So you can, on social media, shout out who you think will win. The hashtags down below, AM win or APAC win. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go with AM win. I think Jab is a very strong player, and he seemed that he was well prepared for this. When I talked with him this morning, he felt that lineup-wise he is slightly unfavored against No, but his play has been on top. I saw him play at San Francisco, the Americas Championship, and he was really impressive when I saw him play.
Yeah, Jab is a very, very strong player. He's flown under the radar for a long time. He's had a lot of strong ladder finishes, hasn't really necessarily put up results in tournaments until now. But he's a player who a lot of high-level players have respected for a very long time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. At the same time, though, so far in this match, I've actually been mostly impressed by No's play, being very restrained with the consecration. Ended up to a situation where he was able to dominate the board and basically lead it with like all of his creatures having 1 HP.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of players really will snap off a consecration as soon as there's an opportunity, but he played very, very deliberately, was able to use his Light's Justice from Muster, despite the minions being killed, to very good effect, and ultimately found a great spot for that consecration that really sealed the game.
Yeah. And here we go, see Jab play his mid-range hunter once again, and this time No is going to be piloting an aggressive Warlock deck.
It's interesting, the matchup here of the aggressive Warlock deck against Hunter, statistically, if you look at the results of a lot of tournaments over the past year or so, pretty much the slower the Hunter deck is, the better a chance the Warlock deck has of winning. So Jab's Hunter deck is pretty slow compared to many of them. He doesn't have things like Leper Gnome or Abusive Sergeant. We've seen Dr. Boom, so a lot of high-end stuff. So this is actually a matchup where, due to those specific choices, often the Warlock deck is advantaged.
Well, he almost thought about that attack, which is very interesting, because if you make that attack, you kind of counterfeit your own silence play. So I guess he might be thinking of saving the silence against something else. I mean, it would lead me to believe that.
Yeah, could be. Jab here looking at quick shot, freezing trap with juggler, all playable, but not exactly what he likes to do here.
Jab here has to be afraid of No having something like an Abusive Sergeant or a Power Overwhelming to activate that Nerubian Egg and kill whatever minion Jab does play. So something like the Knife Juggler, even though to the board it looks like it survives, looks like it's fine, it feels like a dangerous play in his spot.
I feel like Freeze Trap really isn't that bad. I mean, you don't do very well against the Haunted Creeper, but it's still not that bad. He can't actually activate the egg in that case because he can't attack the Mad Scientist.
Right.
Oh, he's going to go for the juggler, and he might get rewarded for it, because No does not have a buff right now. If No had either Abusive Sergeant or a Power Overwhelming, that would be an easy way to deal with juggler right now.
Yeah, it looks like No is just going to use his owl to silence the juggler. The juggler's ability to throw out knives and randomly hit targets on the opposing board is very strong against a board that can be full of 1 health minions, like No's very well could be.
Yeah, Jab definitely happy to see that. That's not a very strong silence, and not only that, but No was a 3 mana, and that was an inefficient turn for him.
We do see the freeze trap come down from the mad scientist. Of course, we know it's freeze trap because it wasn't playable from his own hand, and it makes it so. Passive turn.
Yeah, so No decides that he doesn't want to attack with either of his minions into the freezing trap. It gives him an opportunity to potentially attack with Defender of Argus next turn, and that will give him a second use of Defender of Argus' Battle Cry ability, which can be very powerful in this matchup.
Yep. Jab goes for the Animal Companion, gets a Hopper.
Always.
Not always, but quite often though.
I mean, he got Leok last game, but it's still always Huffer, right?
At least 1 out of 3 times.
Well, he's not really able to do much with his creatures unless he's willing to concede his freeze trap to a 1/1 once again.
Yeah, I kind of expect him to just let the freezing trap not do that much. So he has to get through this.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to go ahead and try and take out the 4/4 Nerubian, would be my guess.
Yep, looking at the quick shot, will it land on the defender? Yep.
Yeah, he wants to use the quick shot to kill the defender here because he would rather his opponent not get an opportunity to get a second use of the defender. Oh, he just goes face.
Yeah, I like to face it because I think in this game you have to push for a bit of face damage or else you're just not going to keep up with the overwhelming card advantage of a Warlock player.
Yep. No gets a Knife Juggler from the top, so he could try to juggle one of those 1 toughness minions.
It does seem like a very reasonable thing to do here.
The Juggler also, if he plays the Juggler down, it trades with anything on Jab's side of the board anyway, so it's not like Jab gets great possible trades into it, even if he does miss.
Yep, what else could he do? The Defender of Argus, I guess that would be okay-ish, buffing that Nerubian to 5 toughness, but it's not very mana efficient. I guess almost nothing is very mana efficient.
Well, the Argus kills the Huffer with the 1/1, the 5/5 kills the 3/1 if there's no more damage left on Jab's side. And there really isn't. I mean, do you really want to kill command a 5/2 right now?
Yeah, I think he has to.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. With that hand, what else could he play? He almost was forced to play. If he had a Hymenia, then he probably would trade.
And now his freezing trap continues to look kind of
damage. And in the end, it seems like it might work. I mean, the Zoo Warlock decks really have no comeback mechanic in terms of life gain. In the odd case, you might see like a Demon Zoo lock with Voidcaller and Mal'Ganis, but it's hard to say if he's actually playing that version yet.
Here the Juggler's going to get a couple of really nice shots. Two different 1 health minions on the board, able to take shots at each of them. Well, with Jab's powers from last game and this game combined, he would be able to assemble the combo of Acid Maw and Dreadscale and kill all of those creatures.
Yeah.
Although Dreadscale can actually be, maybe not good. So Dreadscale, it deals 1 damage to each other minion at the end of each turn.
Including your own.
Including your own.
Including your own.
So he could potentially try and break that spider and play the Dreadscale and
that could
unleash
so
things.
Badly.
It really can.
Yeah, I've got a feeling like Jab might just smork it up here and
I
unleash
think that's
go
more
face.
likely.
The Juggler is a bit dangerous because there could be an implosion coming up, and in that case there will be a lot of juggles.
We have to keep in mind, like, if he just unleashes face this turn, he puts his opponent down on 8, and he's at 27.
Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Yeah, the Zoo Warlock decks generally develop damage fairly slowly. They're really just about developing the board with sticky minions.
But I think I have to point out that 1 quick shot and 1 kill command were already used, so after the defender comes down, Jab might have a difficult time to deal additional damage on top of that hero power, so it might take multiple turns.
Yeah, Jab does know that No has the defender in his hand, so he has to be very cognizant of the fact that he's not going to get much more minion damage in.
Oh man, it's turn 7, you have that Dr. Boom, it looks so tempting, but you want to play so defensively here.
But this,
oh wow, 2-1. That is not good for Jab.
Yeah, this is a great position for No here. Like, I have to imagine that Yeah, he decides to clear off the beast rather than the larger minions. It's a lot of respect for Houndmaster or Kill Command right there.
The Druid Saber is a beast after the Battlecry triggers.
Right, but it's not when it comes to play.
Right.
That Dread Scale is actually not so
Yeah,
bad.
this Dread Scale is actually going to be fantastic here.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't do much in terms of damage.
look at those faces. He just laughs it up.
Its reaction was.
But what it does do is it stalls the Warlock from being able to push damage. And the Warlock, it tried to do it as aggressive as a play as it could, and I mean it's at 22.
Also clears off 2 different taunt minions. It's a pretty big deal. Or one taunt minion, leave this one at very low health.
Yeah, no, throwing a flame in completely useless at this
What
point.
he's looking for here.
No, he's running out of time. He has more cards than Jab. Jab obviously have with empty hand at this point. Oh, the second Doom card gets burned. No, definitely would have liked to keep that one.
Takes out the Dread Scale, which he really needs to do to just protect his own minions here. And then Lotheb.
Yeah, it's just the body. I mean, again, everything at this stage in the game threatens the board.
Yeah.
So
every bit of damage counts.
Every turn, No has to use his damage into creatures, which is really not what he wants to do, but he has to do it. I feel here like you just played Dr. Boom and an abusive. You don't even have 5 damage.
He has to trade with the
Yeah,
Lotheb.
he has to clear the Lotheb off.
And the only way to do it is with the Doom card, which is unfortunate. That means No will only be able to deal 2 damage to Jab's face this time.
We can do 3 with the Abusive Sergeant, but not nearly enough.
Actually 4, yeah.
And just the hero power from Jab is starting to close the game out next turn. So Dr. Boom only generates 9 damage, potentially more with the Boom bots, but Jab has 2 turns of hero powering left before the game just ends. And No has gone through both of his Doom guards. So his ability to actually do any sort of burst damage is very much reduced. So here,
I feel
don't think there's really much way out of this.
No, there is. The Boom bots could just
true.
seal up that gap.
The Boom bots each going for face
9, 10, 11. He's 11 damage on the board right now. The Mad Scientist here is actually more a way to... Oh, wow.
Okay.
Speaking of ways out of this situation.
That is that one.
That's one of them, yeah. So Mal'Ganis makes No's hero immune. So even if Jab is able to survive the turn, he can't even use his hero power to win the game.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't even think it was in the deck because we didn't see any void colors.
Yeah, it looked like this was more of a sort of traditional aggressive style.
Oh, no.
Jab's happy, and then it's going to turn around very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh no, Jab's reaction here.
There's an owl out from the top of the stack. If Jab draws Iron Beak Owl, I believe that's his only way out of this game. That is Eagle Horn Bow, and that is what a turnaround! What a turnaround! No went from absolutely no way to win the game, as far as we can see, to drawing Mal'Ganis.
Yeah, really,
the game's over.
I mean, that deck had no indication of having any sort of healing or anything like that.
No.
So, I mean, Mal'Ganis really was the one draw, and you can't tap towards that draw either. So we're literally just looking at rolling the dice with 15 possibilities in that turn.
That was incredible. I was already so sure
Yeah,
that Jab would
we were
take
sitting
it
there.
down.
Oh, he's just going to win the game unless the Boom bots. Oh, and there's the other highly improbable way that he wins this game is Mal'Ganis. That was incredible.
All right, well, Jab is not really having much luck with his Hunter. It seems like he gets in a situation where he's dominating, and then slowly it creeps back, and in the end, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, now he really needs to start crawling back. He's down 0 and 2. He needs to win 3 in a row, and I believe it's only Druid left for now.
Yeah, this is a matchup where I think all of Jab's decks have a pretty good shot. I have to imagine that Jab's mage deck is the sort of tempo casino mage deck. He's had a lot of success with that at the America's Championship.
I want to see it.
As well as previous events.
I have not seen this deck play.
Jab has he was actually saying at breakfast this morning, we were talking to him, and he was saying, yeah, I happen to have pretty good luck with these things like unstable portals and spell slingers. He actually eliminated Trump off of the unstable, or spell slinger into tracking into the lethal fireball at the America's Championship.
Well, the interesting thing to note is that because it is double elimination, if you're doing badly, and Jeb is doing badly, he might just stick with Hunter to keep his other 2 decks completely secret.
It is, yeah. Given that he has to win with all of them in order to advance from this match, the less information he can give to his future opponents, the better.
Yeah, I mean, it might not even be Tempo Mage, but certainly it's something that you want to keep hidden at this point. I would expect Jab to just keep playing his Hunter for now.
Absolutely.
All right, well, a little bit more from Jab. We have him talking about some of his plays and some of his goals.
Yeah, the coolest play I've made recently was in Game 5 in my match against Trump in Regionals, where I top-decked Spellslinger into Tracken into Fireball to win the game. He didn't play around it. My overall goal with Hearthstone is just picking up more fans and growing my stream viewer base. I think that's the most important thing for me right now.
I feel like I spoiled that. Talking about the Spellslinger to Track into Fireball, but Jab seems to think it was pretty cool
thunder.
too. Yeah. Sorry, Jab. Sorry.
All right, Jab needs to win 3 in a row, and I think that his Hunter and Mage are probably going to be favored against the Druid, but even then he still has to win with his own Druid against Node's Druid, and Druid is always a deck that can win even in unfavorable matchups.
Now, we have seen a lot of new Druid decks pop up recently, and I'm not much of a Druid player, so I'm kind of curious what you guys think the Druid versus Druid matchup is like. We've seen very aggressive Druids, we've seen combo Druids that just include the double Ancient of War instead of more mid-range minions. How does the Druid versus Druid meta actually work?
Shade of Max Ramos is definitely a huge deal. If you can innovate out early, there's no way for the other Druid to really deal with it. Another key turn could be something like an early Emperor from one of the players. It's extremely difficult to move, swipe only dealing 4. You need to have a minion on the board to extend the trade with the spell.
Does the fast Druid, the Leper Gnome type of Druid, does that do pretty well against the mid-range classic Druid that we've seen in the past?
I'm not sure, because Swipe is kind of an okay AoE against that. Swipe in general can struggle with clearing your opponent's board if there's multiple minions out there that happen to not be at 1 HP. But against the fast Druid, it certainly gets almost a full clear.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, it does seem
shade
to be so far a pretty standard list just from the few cards that we've seen from this Druid. But you were right. I mean, this is a very wild mage deck.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that Jab did choose to play his mage deck here, despite the fact that there's no tiebreaker score of game wins. It looks like he just kind of wants to get his confidence going, playing what he thinks is the best matchup.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about, and that's the reason why Jab picked this. I'm pretty sure that he considers this mage deck to be the best counter to the Druid, and that being the reason why he picked it.
Well, it is a very strong deck in the matchup, but this is a very strong draw from No. He has the innervated Shade, which is difficult for the mage to interact with without Flame Cannon. Jab has 1 turn to draw Flame Cannon, where he'll still be able to kill that Shade before it gets out of range.
Yep.
Or get some crazy Flamewaker hits.
Wow, well that should do it. I mean,
there you go. Double Arcane Blast now.
Yeah, he can play the Flamewaker, coin an Arcane Blast. He needs to hit 2 out of the 4 missiles on that Shade. If he does not hit 2, no, that is
so
very
unfortunate. 1 out of 4 here.
No, he needs to hit both of those.
Oh
he
dear.
won.
So that was a pretty bad turn of events for Jab there. No is able to use his Wrath plus hero power to take out this Flamewaker, and that Shade is going to connect again to his face. Fortunately for Jab, he does have that second Arcane Blast, which will allow him to take out the Shade and even play Spellslinger or Mirror Entity at the same turn.
Yeah. No is also kind of struggling to gain value, so even though you don't want to see your Flamewaker die there to a spell, it did kind of consume a Wrath, and the Wrath didn't draw. Often, I feel the Druids kind of need the Wrath to draw, but that Ancient of Lore kind of counterbalances that a little bit.
Though Jab is playing Mirror Entity here, which will make any next minion play from No kind of an awkward one.
Man. Yeah.
Speaking of awkward, the second copy of Force of Nature
is that good enough? I think
it's
good enough. I think it's a turn for 6 face.
He could go for it. I mean, when is he going to use both of those?
I think that's maybe a little aggressive, but
basically he gets 5 extra damage in comparison to the hero power, but he could go for it. I think he
he really is thinking about it.
This is so bad, but I got nothing else.
Yeah.
There we go.
Force of Nature base for 6. How often do we see this?
This is a real force.
SM Work approved. He didn't want anyone to say that he missed 6 damage. So
no, you don't want that. And here's going to be the Spellslinger. I really like the decision to wait 1 turn, just in case it's dead. Just get something.
Oh dear.
I don't believe there are any synergistic cards with that.
No.
In Druid, no, I don't think
Possibly
so.
a piloted Shredder might drop a relevant totem.
That is true. So then it might work out. And for Jab, that would have been playable because of just the
Look at the swing, though.
Yeah.
With the Mirror Entity developed,
Mirror Entity is
getting a
hugely
5-5.
powerful.
You have the Seal of Champions to kill the 5-5 with your 2-2 and have it stay alive.
that Seal of Champion is so
that is
good
gross.
here.
It's possible you actually want to Seal of Champions on maybe your 3-4 because it's less vulnerable to removal
Silence?
effects. Silence would be more effective on the Mad Scientist as well, but it also isn't vulnerable to, say, Wrath or another removal effect.
Yeah, because now kind of Jab doesn't care if that gets killed and he loses the buff. I really like the decision to use it on that minion because the Keeper of the Crow would kind of be a weak play anyway.
But here, No is in a really rough spot.
Oh, he is. He's absolutely.
And this is precisely why, the way that this game is played out, why Jab's Mage deck is so powerful against Druid. One of the really important cards you saw this game was the Arcane Blast. It's a card that not all sort of tempo style of Mage decks have really adopted, but it's extremely powerful in combination with Flame Waker, and it's very good for allowing the Mage deck to interact with the opponent's board as well as develop something else in the same turn. We saw Jab able to have a lot of efficiency early on with that.
All right, well, there's some cards here that just win the game. Any Silence, I believe, does it.
Black Knight. Ooh.
Captain Greenskin. Not the best card for a Mage. But
Yeah.
I mean, if he has a Blingstrom tech team, I guess there might be some use out of it.
That Mad Scientist gets to trade in
possible.
for what is probably
It is
another
a card
Mirror Entity.
with a somewhat favorable random effect.
That's true.
Thematic.
Hoping for a swipe, does not get it, and that should be game.
I
Goes
like
for the
the style Totemic Might here. I like it.
No, it's not a style. I think it plays around counterspell.
It does play around counterspell, but it's also pretty stylish.
Yeah.
I don't believe he's dead. He can innervate Force of Nature to prevent this, can't he? Oh no. Yes, he can. He just killed the 5/5 with Force.
So, go see an
Effigy.
Oh, what a deal
Shady
indeed. That is enough
dealer.
to seal out the game. I believe there's nothing at this point that we can
That
do.
is not a bad deal at all. That's exactly going to do it. And Jab climbing back, at least a little bit. He's now only down 2 games.
But that
his
Mage
best
deck
matchup
was
for sure.
outrageous.
Yeah. That looks so one-sided.
Yeah.
It really did, and it looked like the Druid. It was like kind of the opposite of the last few games, where the Druid had this like spectacular start. It seemed like the Mage couldn't do very much. Got some bad RNG at the start, and then suddenly, from the Mirror Entity, from the fact that No had a really bad turn, it was like over on the spot.
Yeah, the moment that No ran out of tools to play on curve, he was just done. He was just so far behind.
He played on curve.
Well, he did play on curve.
Force
Yeah.
of Nature on
although,
curve.
although to be fair, even if he had a very strong 6-drop, there's already a Mirror Entity out.
Right. Yeah,
That is
absolutely.
true. So something like Emperor Thaurissan wouldn't even have been that good.
Oh, Emperor Thaurissan would have been probably a disaster.
It would have gone very badly.
I'm
for him.
imagining a card like another Darnassus Spirant would have been pretty good on that spot. Maybe deny a Mana Crystal.
Oh,
all right. Well, it is going to be the return of the mid-range hunters. This is mid-range hunter versus what has seemed to be a fairly standard mid-range druid list.
Yep, Darnassus Aspirant, one of the better cards against Hunter. It deals so efficiently with the freezing traps.
And Jab with a pretty solid opening hand here. He has and that Hunter's Mark is very likely to come in quite handy in this match. We did see that No had not only the standard sort of lineup of mid-range druid creatures, but he also had Ancient of War, and the Hunter's Mark is a very strong tool at dealing with that.
Both of the players with absolutely amazing hands.
Yeah, these are very good hands.
That Hunter's Mark is an Arcane Blast for free.
It is, and this is. Oh, and he picks up the quick shot. Decides to use that. He could have used Hunter's Mark and then be able to develop his Mad Scientist as well. He saves his Hunter's Mark for a larger threat later on.
Right. So he's thinking that he doesn't need a tempo right away, and I think he's kind of right about that.
Yeah, I mean, Jack knows that No plays the Ancient of War, for example, and Hunter's Marking an Ancient of War is such a huge swing.
I actually don't know if we've even seen an Owl from Jab's deck. I feel all these tech mid-range cards, and they actually substitute for Silence.
I think he only plays Hunter's Mark. A lot of players only play one of those. They play either Owl or a Hunter's Mark, or maybe 2 Hunter's Marks or 2 Owls, but it's quite rare to see both Hunter's Marks and Owls.
It looks like Jab is debating.
Is it time for Hunter's Mark, or is he just going for it?
No, he's going for it, I'm pretty sure.
That's a lot of damage.
That sure is, and for a No, what can he really do about that? He can silence it, but that's a poor answer.
If he silences, he still leaves the 4/4 body. And he is a mana short of being able to play either of those Force of Natures. He's going to just have to trade minions in.
Such a weak turn. He really needs to find something like a bluegill here to help it out.
Or spell damage.
Almost. It was the Murgle sound with the wrong
charge.
one.
I was like, when I heard the sound, I was already sure that it's going to go blue. Not this time.
Well, here you really can't afford to continue taking damage. I think you would consider the trade.
Does not trade.
Oh, there is a
there
sign.
is
There
now.
is an... Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, I think if you have a big minion that's injured, you can Hunter's Mark and silence it yourself to heal it.
That is true. You do get it back to full.
Like you have Dr. Boom, it's like a 7-1.
Such a rare situation, but I've done it a few times.
All right, jab getting in there. This is a lot of damage.
Yeah, no, really looking for that swipe right now.
Well, the Force of Nature really isn't that bad in this spot.
Yeah, it is totally reasonable. He's able to clear off most of the board with Force of Nature.
Swipe with the Wrath would have been a tiny bit more efficient, but the Force of Nature is certainly what he is going to play here. Because even the Druid of the Claw, no, you can't really do that.
What do you want to freeze? I mean, you've seen that Jab is running 2 freezes so far, and that might be all he's running, but you don't know that for sure. But you can actually choose to freeze off one of the treants.
Yeah, he could have, but then he had to trade the Keeper of the Grove into either the Houndmaster or the Huffer. Because he needed to deal 6 damage to those minions combined.
Yeah, now he's able to set up for a possible next turn where he's able to use that Force of Nature to clear off a freezing trap if he really needs to. Interesting to see that he chooses to kill the Spider rather than the Mad Scientist. I'm curious what the motivation might be there.
I think he wanted to...
Well, now that he has silence, does he really need to save the Hunter's Mark? I feel like he can slow down the game again as he had in the past.
Yeah, I would like to see the mark here.
Yeah.
That Shade is becoming a huge threat. Buys him a lot of time to kill it off right now.
Now, we've seen Jab in this situation twice now, where he's dominating, he's got his opponent on low HP, he's trying to close out the game, but it just so happens that it doesn't work.
Looking pretty reasonable here. No does have that Druid of the Claw, which can give him the 4/6 taunt.
Where shall I start?
Right, but if he relies on that, and often when you're losing, you do make risky plays that you have to rely on, it's going to cost him the game, and I think that's actually exactly what's going to happen
that's
here.
going to do it. I was expecting to see the Wrath over the
Right,
hero
I was
power.
a little
Oh,
surprised.
no, he does go for it. He does go for the trade.
Yeah, I was expecting to see Wrath on that Shredder as well.
That's pretty close.
Pretty close to lethal here.
Pretty close, but not quite.
Yeah, how much is that?
It's 8.
8 damage, so he's going to be a couple of points short still.
And no, I mean, he's on 8 mana. He can't draw both Innervate and a Savage Roar to kind of push right away. So he needs to find a way to stay alive. And that might be really hard to do. It might just be like a good Shredder pop and Ancient of Lore off the top is required.
He needs some help here.
Chap here is considering whether or not to trade one of the Hounds for the Keeper of the Grove, but I think he probably should do it because of the freezing trap. He agrees. Oh, there's the swipe.
That's pretty good. He's not able to... The problem here is that he's not able to swipe and replay the bear if he has attack with it. I suppose he can cast Wrath and then swipe what comes out, or vice versa, Wrath or swipe and then play the Wrath. I imagine playing the Wrath first makes more sense. There are 4 health minions.
I think the Force of Nature is also a good candidate.
Yeah. Well, it could potentially work out. I like to swipe first, because just in case there's a 1 toughness minion coming out, he could have Wrathed for a card. He really needs to find the lore as soon as possible. But if it was a 4 toughness minion, that would have probably been the end of the game.
Yeah.
Well, that minion is pretty useless on the board just by itself.
But
Force of Nature is still something you want to trigger freeze
accomplish
trap with.
anything.
Right.
Like, Bo would still kill him.
And
that
he's not
one
quite
off
do it.
lethal.
Getting close.
You still have to do it, though.
Yeah.
Because if you put your opponent on 1, he needs more than just the hero power to stay alive 1 extra turn.
With this Unleash, the Hound, he's forcing No to have the heal.
That's
and
not it.
he doesn't.
That's not it, and he's only at 9 mana crystals right now, so he cannot draw another card with the Wild Growth. So that should be a game going with Jab.
Yeah. It looks like Jab's finally going to get a win with his Hunter deck here. No does see that it's a freezing trap.
Well,
so
that's
a little bit of
the point.
information.
Yeah, exactly. You want to see what trap that might be.
He's able to replay that bear, but just the hero power will finish him off. And there it is. No concedes, and we're going to game 5.
Yeah, Jab evens it up from an 0-2 kind of very problematic situation that we started on.
Yeah. I believe this is actually the first 5-game series we've seen so far here at the World Championship.
It's true. It feels like some of the players, and especially maybe a great deal on the first day at least, chose to have lineups that just counter one deck. And with the kind of unwillingness to show too many cards in the opening game, it seems like the punish towards one deck or one deck archetype has really been very dominant and led to fairly quick series.
Yeah. It's all going to come down to this Druid mirror now. There might be some differences in the deck list, because we did see that Sylvanas Windrunner from No, which is not something that we often see.
Yeah, Sylvanas has become a fairly uncommon card in most mid-range Druid decks. It's a very powerful card in this type of matchup, though, where there are like large mid-range minions on both sides of the board.
All right, well, we see some pretty standard stuff on both sides of the board here.
So Jab is going to be going first, and he does have that Darnassus Aspirant, which is a pretty big deal. It's not quite as good as Wild Growth, because it can be removed by something like the Wrath, which we see in No's hand as well, but it does force your opponent to react to it or end up getting behind.
Absolutely, it's way better than Hero Power. In this matchup, this is never one a Hero Power. You want to use your mana as efficiently as possible, and if there was no Wrath for No, no way to deal with that.
Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
I'm a little surprised that No did choose to mulligan Wrath, given how important the Darnassus Aspirant opening can be. Though he is rewarded for it by picking up 2 copies of his own Darnassus Aspirant.
Yeah, and with that coin, now Jab is going to be the one having to react to this.
But I feel Jeb can react to this. He has the Wrath answer, and then he can play his Shade which kills the other one. And then there's actually no 4-drop on No's side. He'd have to big game Hunter for tempo, which often is the losing play.
Yeah, that is quite powerful.
There is a Wild Growth for No, however. He's able to, if he so chooses, just ramp his man with that this turn.
Which one would you?
I think we want to develop a minion.
Yeah,
you
I like
really want to push for damage.
Yeah, I like the Aspirant here in general, but it does. If he did have a 4 that he really wanted to play, he could Wild Growth to be assured that that was an option in the following turn.
Yep, it's true. And No doesn't really have anything to play here. He could just go for the Tempo PGH, but the Wild Growth secures the Druid of the Claw next turn, even if the Aspirant dies. So strong play there.
We do see the Ancient of War picked up by No. That's a very, very strong minion that can swing the game pretty heavily in one player's favor toward the late game.
Really, though, does it matter if he can play the Druid of the Claw? If he does want to play the Druid of the Claw, it results in a Shade staying alive. It's going to be a 3-1 Shade, and the Darnassus is just going to be fine as well. Like, he's letting his opponent ramp as well. So it seems like there's so many problems from actually playing the Druid of the Claw that it's really not that great of a play.
Yeah, I think if you're
But you have to do it, I think.
You'd love to draw Swipe here. He was able to pick up a Swipe, clear off both of these minions in the same turn.
I think you have to consider Big Game Hunter, actually. You really do.
Big Game Hunter Hero Power?
Yeah.
The problem with that is that your opponent, even if you do kill the Shade, they can easily play a Taunt minion going into their 5-6 mana turn that can protect their Darnassus Aspirant, and then you're going to end up being weak to something like a Dr. Boom later on.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of actually like the Big Game Hunter Hero Power here, but we know better. We can see the cards. From No's perspective, it would seem like a reasonable play, but if he saw the cards, obviously Jab has that Dr. Boom ready and waiting. And if No chooses to go with the Big Game Hunter here, he might be in trouble later on.
Might even go for a charge.
Yeah, I like this. This puts Jab in a position where he needs to have some real resource to actually kill the 4-2, or it will threaten to trade with the Shade.
I think the Belcher is just good enough.
Yeah, that matches up fairly well. Then in that case, he could also ignore the Druid of the Claw for now.
Yes.
The stat line on it, having that 3-5 taunt, it's quite powerful against the 4-2.
The Sludge Belcher is very difficult for No to get through, to get to that Shade. And right now, that Shade's going to keep growing and keep proving to be a bigger problem for No as the game goes on.
Now, one thing we see is that not only does he have Belcher, but he has that he has the Drake as well. Is he playing Belcher, Drakes, and Druid of the Claws?
Wow, that's
my guess is that he probably does not have Druid of the Claw in his deck. We've seen a number of players make that adjustment in different environments. Basically, the idea is that you want the Azure Drakes because your deck can be resource starved, because so much of it is this mana acceleration that you need to have cards to draw into other cards, and that Sludge Belcher is just a better defensive minion than Druid.
That's really interesting. Personally, I've been trying out some kind of list where there's maybe one Drake, one Belcher, but Druid of the Claw is not something that I would cut easily.
That's
Zixo
true.
at a recent event actually played Thaddeus, the Fugin and Stalag, in place of Druid of the Claw, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty effective too.
Yep, and Jab is going to go for the Keeper of Rod, which certainly is a powerful play, but now he's going to have a tough time dealing with that Ancient of War, because he will no longer have this access to the Simon.
Now, the good news in saving the BGH is you might actually get to use it in 2 turns.
Yes.
Just before you die.
Yeah. Well, Ancient of War does come down. This is a pretty good stopgap against what Jab has in play, at least.
Yeah, but Boom Pass.
Yeah, Boom is a pretty good play here as well. Yeah. No does have
I think he has to
good
think
response.
about the option of it getting punished, though. No, I guess not. I guess Dr. Boom is that card where if he gets punished, usually trades for the BGH with the Boom Bots at least.
Yep, no trade available for Jab here. Those minions on the board before the Dr. Boom, only 9 power, so attacking here would be quite shocking.
Although I think Jab may be thinking about if his opponent does have, say, a swipe.
That
Oh,
one.
and there it is.
Wow.
I was about to say, if he has
that.
swipe, he can kill the Shade of Naxxramas, and it will kill the Boombot. So he misses out on the 6 damage on that Ancient by not attacking that turn.
Yeah, this is pretty much the
Huge
best
draw.
This is
Yeah,
like
that was
best
massive.
possible
That
turn
was
for no.
absolutely massive.
Best possible turn for no, really.
And now, because he didn't get the 6 damage on that Ancient from attacking the Shade that turn, it is huge. He still has 8 health.
Wow, this game.
He wouldn't
might
be able
have
to kill it
just turned
regardless, because if he did do the 6 damage, he would have
He could
swiped
swipe
the
different
Keeper.
thing. Yeah, absolutely. But there would have been, it's possible that the Boombats could have hit it for more as well.
And that's
oh, is this
lethal
game?
right there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
exactly 27.
That was a huge turnaround, and now all of a sudden Jab goes from being in an incredible position to that Ancient just closing things out, protecting
Wow.
No and Savage Roar and Force of Nature. That is exactly lethal damage.
Oh, that was
No seems
incredible.
so relieved there.
Yeah. When you're up 2-0 and suddenly it claws back to a 5th game, you start
In a
to
mirror match.
Yeah, you start to worry quite a bit. And both players had excellent draws that game, and No was just able to come out a little bit on top, and was able to end it in dramatic fashion.
That swipe draw was absolutely huge.
It was huge. It was absolutely.
It was game-winning, absolutely. I mean, the really interesting thing is that both players kind of proved themselves. I feel Jab was basically winning both the first 2 games, ended up losing, but he stayed composed after he did lose them. He almost very nearly came back.
Yeah.
And even though there's only one winner in the end, we know both players had very redeeming qualities from that match.
Neither player is going home yet, so Jab being in that position, having had that very very near comeback, I think certainly will help his mental state moving forward. For if he had just been swept, you definitely are a little bit down and going into the elimination matches this afternoon that can impact your play.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's true. It was so close. It could have went either way. I feel a little bit bad for Jab there, but what could you really do?
Yeah, I mean, when you're a player who is in high-profile, high-stakes situations like that, you just have to go to the next game. You just have to go to the next match and just play your best.
All right. Well, thank you for our sponsors, by the way, for making all of this possible, this great tournament, this great production, and bringing all these great players to play our awesome game of Hearthstone. Before we get on our next match, let's have a quick look at some of the highlights from our last few games, and of course brought to you by the Windows 10 Game DVR.